Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this session on multi-hazard early warning systems for Africa. And what a time to talk about multi-hazard early warning with the Africa Situations Room just launched a few weeks ago. And Chima Foundation has been providing technical support in this regard. And I want to invite Kiara Menkize from the Chima Foundation to introduce the panelists and to moderate this session. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. And Kiara, welcome.
So thank you very much. And good morning, good afternoon, distinguished participants, discussants, colleagues. Welcome to the side event, African Multi-Hazard Early Warning System for Disaster Risk Reduction. And before starting, allow me to give you some technical remarks. For the participants, please note you can drop your questions in the chat box with the @ sign and the name of the discussant, of the speaker you'd like to pose the question to, so that at the end of the event, the questions can be answered by the right speakers. And moving to remarks to our distinguished discussants, remember to speak with a pace translators can keep up with, so not too fast, and kindly keep to the allocated speaking times, which will avoid putting ourselves in difficult situation. So let's start then by offering you a little bit of background before leaving the floor to the professionals who are going to walk you through all the steps of an ambitious as very much needed program. The AUC, the African Center of Meteorological Application for Development, ACMAD, IGAD, ICPAC, and the Economic Community of Central African States, with the technical support of UNDRR, Chima Resource Foundation, and with the contribution also of other UN entities, joint efforts in developing an African roadmap for improving the availability, access, and use of disaster risk information for early warning and early action in the context of transboundary risk management. As the Atlas of Mortality and Economic Losses from Weather, Climate, and Water Extremes, published this year by WMO, has revealed, enhanced preparedness through the implementation of multi-hazard early warning systems has led to a significant reduction in mortality. The MDAT record reveals that deaths decreased almost threefold by weather, climate, and water-related disasters from 1970 to 2019. So we have become better in saving life thanks to preparedness actions, but not so much as saving money. In fact, the same atlas reveals that economic losses, disasters related, are mounting as exposure increases. Therefore, to begin with the African roadmap, so to land on the African Multi-Hazard Early Warning System for DRR, seemed the more logical way to echo a mentality shift we all are pushing for, from managing disasters to manage risks. And the African Multi-Hazard Early Warning System for DRR envisaged a situation room within the AUC premises that serves as disaster risk information hub, as well as coordination center, linked with regional centers in the regional economic communities and other continental organizations. So the situation room, nourished by ICPAC and ACMAC disaster operation centers, is envisioned to offer multiple disaster risk information products, which are designed specifically for AUC organs, RECs, member states, as well as for international organizations engaged in DRR efforts, in order to trigger appropriate and timely early actions in the field of early warning and transboundary risk management. To do so, the Situation Room has started issuing 2 products to be availed at a regular basis called Continental Watch and Event Situation Reports. Moreover, the Situation Room, operating under the responsibility of the AUC, will monitor and support the regular exchange and elaboration of data and dissemination of the generated products and services according to agreed standard operating procedures. This way, we aim to enhance vertical and horizontal coordination mechanism and to facilitate the access to, but also the exchange of risk data and information to member states, but also to decision makers at the continental, regional, and national level, while developing an harmonized system for continental warnings. And on the 26th of October, the IGAD Disaster Operations Center, fully equipped and renovated, was inaugurated, to be followed by the AUC Physical Situation Room and the ACMAD Disaster Operations Center on the 26th of November. As for now, we have all worked remotely, especially due to COVID-19 restrictions, but the inaugurations of the physical disaster operations centers and situation room marks a concrete step towards what Target G of the Sendai framework embeds: the substantially increase and availability of multi-hazard early warning systems and disaster risk information to people by 2030. And now, let's watch the video message of the Director General of the Italian Agency for Development Coordination, Luca Maestripieri. Thank you very much.
First of all, let me thank the United Nations Office for Disaster Risk Reduction for the kind invitation to this event of the 2021 African Regional Platform for DRR. Disasters have great impact on the African continent, triggered by environmental degradation as well as climate change. Exposure to hazards like droughts, floods, cyclones, and epidemics is increasing due to urbanization and unsustainable land use. Moreover, conflicts aggravate the risks and reduce the coping capacities and resilience of communities across African countries. The COVID-19 pandemic adds to all these challenges. In this context, prevention is crucial, and disaster preparedness and understanding of risks has never been more important. Prevention saves lives and money. Acting in advance reduces the level of damage caused by a disaster and relevant humanitarian needs and enables a faster recovery. The Italian Development Corporation is strongly committed in investing in early warning systems and early actions. That is why Italy supported the Africa Roadmap for improving the availability, access, and use of disaster risk information for early warning and early action since its first presentation in Mombasa in January 2020. Moreover, in September 2020, the Italian corporation financed a UN DRR project aimed at establishing an early warning system that will be able to trigger appropriate and timely early actions and transboundary risk management across the African continent. Its implementation will enhance the vertical and horizontal coordination mechanism and facilitate the exchange, monitoring, and access to DRR data through a free open source platform, MyDewetra, developed by the Italian Civil Protection in collaboration with the CIMA Research Foundation. Despite the COVID-19 pandemic, important outputs have been achieved in the first year of the project, such as the inauguration of last October of the Regional Situation Room of the Disaster Operations Centers within the IGAD Climate Prediction and Application Center in Nairobi. Moreover, it will be connected to the Continental Situation Room for DRR at the African Union in Addis Ababa and the Situation Room at the African Center for Meteorological Application for Development, which will be open soon. We are very proud of that project that creates the conditions for the African stakeholders to be leading partners rather than beneficiaries. International expert centers work on a daily basis side by side to African expert centers to deliver tools and services to African institutions. Building resilience requires a systemic and holistic approach and the broadest participation of stakeholders to better understand and mitigate the many cascading impacts of disasters to the entire socio-economic system. I'd like to conclude by expressing my sincere appreciation for the effective collaboration with UNDRR and African stakeholders so far. We look forward to continue our fruitful cooperation next year. Thank you.
Thanks to Luca Maestri-Pieri, Director General of the Italian Agency for Development Cooperation, for this great introduction to the program. And now let's move to the presentation of the Africa Roadmap for improving the availability, access, and use of disaster risk information for early warning and early action in the context of transboundary risk management, presented by Diana Patricia Mosquera-Calle from UNDRR. Diana, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Chiara. I will very briefly present the roadmap. I think in your introduction, you touch upon the key aspects, and also we heard from the previous speaker on some of the collaboration that is being undertaken in this sense. So I will need to start maybe taking us a little bit back to our previous platform in Tunisia, where this process started. So it is, I have to say, first of all, a participatory process that through different stages and different phases led us to the roadmap that we are presenting, and more than presenting, operationalizing today altogether. So there have been different levels of consultation and analysis to build this roadmap, starting from research, going to regional workshops, national workshops, technical visits, and different kinds of advisory. And we have today the final roadmap. But more than a document, it is meant to be a participatory approach and is a partnership-oriented process, trying to build synergies and learning experiences from different scientific and technical spaces in the region, and exploring sustainable solutions together with the African partners. So it is inspired also from reality and technology from other regions like Europe, and supported by different donors, as we have perceived, Italy, Sweden, European Union, the cruise mechanism, and others. So it is, simply put, based on the four traditional elements of early warning, from risk knowledge to monitoring and forecasting, dissemination and communication, and preparedness and response. And this might sound a little bit technical or a little bit known for all of us that work on early warning, but what is important to mention is all the cross-cutting elements that accompany these elements of early warning, like legal frameworks and institutional frameworks, interconnected operational structures. You mentioned it, Chiara, in your introduction on the Situation Room, and David also gave us the good news that the Situation Room in IGAD was recently inaugurated. So through standard operating procedures and Situation Rooms, there is a way to continue putting together these four elements of early warning. There is also cooperation and partnership that is important, that we call triangular cooperation, capacity development, and of course, financial mechanisms that need to be put in the table for the sustainability of the efforts. That is also important to discuss, and I think the more technical colleagues will go more into the details of this. But what is important to mention is the objective of having a common methodology for disaster risk reduction that puts together, under the leadership of the African Union Commission, the different regs, the member states, the UN system, and we focus maybe a little bit for the moment on the data sharing and risk knowledge component, but as mentioned before, there are the four components of early warning that are important to keep in mind. So there are different tools that are being put together in order to have a common understanding of a continental and a regional early warning system, learning from other regions. So I think we will go through the panel more into the details and into the different products that are being discussed at the technical level. But one important aspect to keep in mind is the role of the situation rooms as a connector of all the information and the methodologies and learning that we are proposing through the implementation of the roadmap. So there is, for example, the work that is being conducted with AUC for the situation room, but also the IGAD Climate Prediction and Application Center that was recently inaugurated, and also the work ongoing with ACMAT Situation Room. In addition to that, there are some member states also joining technically this the implementation of the roadmap, like, for example, different projects in Ethiopia, in Tanzania, and other member states joining the process. I won't go into a lot of details of this diagram, but just to emphasize the approach behind of connecting the continental level with the regional level, national, and why not going a little bit more at the subnational level. It's a long process, but this is the philosophy behind, if we can say it like this, of the work that is being conducted with all the partners. If I can focus very quickly in some of the UNDRR activities, of course, there are many other activities conducted by many other partners, but there are some projects that are framed within this roadmap that we are discussing. For example, the work in Ethiopia, the work that is being conducted thanks to eco-funding, the cruise mechanism in the Indian Ocean that we are also supporting. So just to give a sense of how different initiatives also complement in a more practical sense the implementation of the roadmap. Just to start to close this very quick introduction, there is just to reinforce the importance of the cooperation in the region among the different centers, with the African Union Commission, but also the opportunities to learn from other regions and recognize international expert centers, and this to be translated into solidarity in training and exchange of data, exchange of standard operating procedures and mechanisms to reinforce the operational capacities for the benefit of the population, which will benefit, as you said, Chiara, in the introduction, the importance of the impact of early warning systems to reduce mortality, but also how can we do better to also reduce losses and infrastructure and economic losses as well. So I am sure that through the discussions, these different elements will be discussed more in depth. Thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity to share with you this introduction.
Thank you, Diana. Thank you a lot. And now let's dive into what the African roadmap entails. The Situation Room at AUC and the Disasters Operations Centers at ACMAD and ICPAC. So today with us, presenting the AUC main situation room, we have its duty officer, Luzajo Ambukege. Luzajo, the floor is yours.
Yeah, so generally speaking, the establishment of the situation room, the multi-hazard early warning situation room, actually is one of the milestones of the project. And this situation room, actually, it is basically the nerve center of the AUC in terms of coordinating disaster emergencies, as well as response and recovery activities. And so this emanates from the background that over the years, we have seen the increase of disaster events or extreme events over the continent. Not only extreme events, but we're also seeing the increase in terms of economic loss, direct economic loss, as well as the costs related to recovery. So basically, the function of the situation room include, among others, the coordination of transboundary disaster risk management, as well as emergencies. So this is looking at both continental and regional levels. Then the other function is to ensure that the situation room receives and develops situation event reports from the member states and then generates its own reports for sharing with AUC organs. Then the other function is to ensure provision of information as well as appraising the AUC organs on ongoing disasters and emergencies at the continental level. Then the other one is also the provision of early warning information to member states, and this is particularly done through the Continental Watch, especially for those that are transboundary in nature. Then the other one is to ensure that after understanding these events, then we activate the continental emergency support during emergencies for the affected member states. Then the last one, of course, is to act as a link between the AUC as well as REX and member states. Okay, so one of the key products that produce, a number of them, we have the situation report, then we have Continental Watch report, and then we have contingent and preparedness plan. And other than that, there are also two key documents that have been developed by the situation room: data sharing policy, as well as the standard operating procedures. So for the Continental Watch bulletin, we generally look at three hazards, and these are heavy rainfall, floods, and wind. Okay, so please, you can just load the bulletin, the Continental Watch bulletin, just run through in the next 2 minutes, and then I can conclude my presentation. Continental Watch bulletin, it's in PDF. It was sent together with the PowerPoint presentation, so that we just run through how it looks like.
So thank you, Lusajo. It seems that the Continental Watch, which is one of the two products as of now of the Situation Room, serves to monitor hazards over the continent. And the second product of the Situation Room, the Disaster Event Situation Reports, issues updates on current disasters and their related impacts. So this AUC Situation Room is really already supporting the regular exchange and elaboration of data and dissemination of risk information products and services, keeping decision makers and member states informed on ongoing and upcoming hazards. And this is really interesting. And now let's hear about the ACMAD Forecasting Center, the Dr. Andre Kamga. So Dr. Kamga, thank you very much for being here, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, very well.
Yeah, okay. So ACMAD is involved in this exciting activity following a set of, let's say, situations with impact of past disasters that we all know. The most severe drought that we had lately was over Southern Africa from October 2015 to March, April 2016. And we also the high-level declaration of state of drought disaster emergency came out in July 2016, when actually the drought finished in March, April. And we also had instances similar in Eastern Africa, where you have a drought from October to December, and the political declaration that trigger action really happens in February the following year. So our involvement here is to make sure that Africa tap into all available products, monitoring and forecasting products, and then transform this into advisories, watches, and warnings at the national level. And this obviously comes as a second component of the system that was shown. The system of 4 elements that constitute early warning system that we saw: risk assessment, monitoring, and forecasting. So that's where ACMAD, the regional centers and national meteorological services will actually be working to implement effectively. And I would say that on the other aspect, since it will be a multi-hazard early warning system, we have worked already on prioritizing what are those critical hazards that we will focus on, that will generate information on. So because it is the deadliest hazard, drought comes first, and then heavy rain and floods, and extreme temperature, heat waves in particular. And following that, we have also the non-disruptions on the onset and cessation of the rainy season. All those are identified as, let's say, the major hazard on which we should develop products and services. So as I mentioned, the Advisory and Watch Center at ACMAD is coordinating monitoring and forecasting with the regional centers, ICPAC, SADC, CSC, AgriMed, and also in the IOC region, the Regional Specialized Meteorological Center for Cyclones in La Réunion. All these institutions are already working with ACMAD, but this specific activity will help us to focus on clear deliverables based on the strengthened interaction with the DRR community that we are having under this setup. So those are the elements I had to share with you. I have some few slides. Please, can you show the slide? Okay, the second slide, please. Yeah, so this is just to highlight actually the impact of the drought over Southern Africa in 2015-16. So that's the Kariba Dam. As you know, this dam provides actually electricity in many countries in the region. So what you have in yellow is the water level in the dam during the drought year, and the other one up is the water level in some years later. So this situation actually highlighted the need for us to work to do weather and climate forecasting for the region, but also look at parameters like water levels in specific vulnerable infrastructure. So that is actually where we are aiming at with this program. We already master in some way the weather and climate forecast products, but under this activity with the multi-hazard early warning system, it will be to anticipate this kind of situations, and specifically on our critical infrastructure in Africa. Next slide, please. Yeah, so this second one is to show you, so this case is over West Africa, where about 5 days ahead, looking at some specific diagnostic fields coming from our global partner, the European Center for Medium Range Weather Forecasting, we can anticipate the occurrence of some storms, which usually lead to heavy rainfall behind floods when the heavy rainfall occurs in our highly populated cities. So this is just to show you a sequence of signature of this storm that actually hit Senegal 5 days later. And you can see that it was seen up to 5 days ahead around Lake Chad. And his propagation is well visible in the forecast products. I should mention that these are very recent products that are not yet in operations in national meteorological services. But with this opportunity, with this project, we have to integrate these new products in the setup to actually undertake forecasting and advisories. Next slide, please. Yeah, so this was just to make sure that you understand that we are already actually in the institutional setup, Africa, we are working through the Climate Outlook Forum mechanisms with North Africa, all the meteorological services and regional centers in those different parts of Africa are working with us. So the institutional setup is there, and we'll also then be building on these assets. Next slide, please. Yeah, so this last one, it is actually an output of a previous European Union funded project that was called MESA, in which we actually interacted with the disaster risk reduction community in Africa to develop climate services. So as you can see, it is a seasonal forecast transformed or tailored to the needs of the disaster risk community. So the first need that was highlighted to us was that we don't need forecast of meteorological phenomena like storm. We need forecast of the hazards. So instead of forecasting only the meteorological phenomena, you should tell us, are we expecting strong winds? Are we expecting heavy rainfall that can lead to flood? So in this product, we have a first section which is the hazards that we expect for a given season. Then following that hazard, we have a set of potential impacts that may occur in specific locations if these hazards occur. And then from there, the impacts, we also have a set of response measures that can be used then to update the emergency response plans. We are expecting to actually include this product in the portfolio of products that will be issued for the Advisory and Watch Center at ACMAT in collaboration with the regional centers and national meteorological services. These are, let's say, the main elements that I wanted to share with you and articulate the fact that the second component of the multi-hazard early warning system will actually be done benefiting from the institutional setup we already have and the latest advances in terms of technology and products that are just shown to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kamga. Anticipate hazards and improving preparedness for their aftermath is really what we are trying to achieve here. So again, thank you. And before continuing, allow me to reiterate the invitation to you, attendees, participants, our esteemed audience, to drop in the chat box any questions you may have so we can answer to them later at the end of the interventions. And without further ado, it's with great pleasure that I'll pass the floor now to Julie Uma to present the ICPAC Disaster Operations Center. Julie, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Chiara. And at least for me, my presentation has been touched on earlier by Luca from Italy and also briefly by Chiara. So mine will to present to you the Situation Room and the Disaster Operations Center here at ICPAC. I'm not sure if it's so clear on your side, but just a bit of introduction. As indicated earlier by my colleagues Luca and Chiara, this situation room falls under the IGA Disaster Management Program, which has the goal of safeguarding lives, livelihood, and asset of the community against the disasters effect. So we had the IGA member states meet as a Council of Ministers last year, and they decided that we need to have a disaster operations center based in Nairobi and hosted within ICPAC offices. So this disaster operations center basically is supposed to have two major functions. One is to have an early warning center within itself, which is the situation room that looks at early warning products and anticipatory action. And then the next phase will have a response part of it. So we are happy to have the support of UNDRR in partnership with the AUC. And also we have technical support from Shima Foundation and financial support from Italian government, who enable us to set up this situation room. And we are happy to present this. And it's worth noting that it was inaugurated last month. And we had our president and the IGAD secretariat, the Italian ambassador, and other delegates who are present here to officiate this center. So I'll just share with you a bit of the goal we have, the function, and some of the products we issue in the center. So just to fit into the overall goal of the DRM, this situation room mainly will provide multi-hazard early warning information and also to strengthen the early action within the IGAD region. So that's the overall goal of this situation room. And it also have 4 major functions to make sure at least the operation is smooth and clear. One is to monitor major hazards and issue early warning information for the region. And the other one is to coordinate with the member states regarding to anticipatory early action. Thirdly, we aim at having rapid mapping of affected areas within our region in regards to disasters. And finally, we want to strengthen the capacity of the member states in anticipating risk. And also, as mentioned by my colleague Sergio Ali and Chiara, this situation room will be supporting the continental situation room, which will be based in Addis Ababa, to issue this early warning information. Currently, we are supporting the flood component of it, and I'll share with you some info on that in a moment. So basically, this situation room, at the moment, will look at 4 major products. As indicated by my colleague from ACMAD, drought is a major issue. So one of the products we'll consider is drought. The other one is flood. We have pests and diseases, and then food insecurity. So these are the 4 major products we have in the first phase. The second phase, we look at landslide, epidemics, landslide, and forest fires, and any additional products that we'll have as a request from the member states. So as you can just see from the screen, behind those texts is the fully set up room that you already have, and even this presentation is made from the situation room itself. So basically, for the first function, monitoring of this major hazard, we use 2 main systems. One is the MyDawitra platform, which will help us look at those extreme rainfall, floods, and forest fires. And also within the region itself, IGAD region, we have an East Africa Hazard Watch, which also focuses on temperature, food insecurity, flood, and so on. But it's still not fully operational, it's work in progress. But so far, major products that we look at are already active, especially the drought watch system, which also has another specialized system within itself. And I'll be able to share this with you in the next slide. What you see is one of the products that we have under drought. And then we'll have this from my data platform looking at floods within the IGAD region. But this will also feed to what we have at AUC when we're looking at continental flood early warning. Currently, we are using GLOFAS as well, which is also available within my data platform. So this is another product that is going to be issued within this office. We have already a product running under pests. At the moment, the pest is covers the desert locusts that we are currently experiencing affecting our region. So this is already being issued. The other product we have also is food security, and this is also analyzed every monthly and also shared by the member states and also available within our Hazards Watch portal and can be accessed at any time to the public. In terms of anticipatory action, we have started this in our seasonal climate outlook forums, that once we issue our climate outlook, we further disintegrate this information to sectors. And with this, we can anticipate what are these impacts associated with this forecasted rainfall, and we can advise different sectors on actions to take. So these are start of anticipatory action that's going to be further developed within the situation room that you already have established at ICPAC. And this is just the continental watch product that Lusajo mentioned earlier. These are some of the inputs we give to the AUC situation room at the moment, majorly focusing on one thematic area, which is floods. So basically, that's the entire setup we have in brief for the IGA situation room. And probably we'll be happy to engage with you for further questions or clarification that you may have regarding this. And special thanks to African Union, DRR, Chima Foundation, and the Italian government for the support of having this in place. Thank you very much, Kiara.
Thank you a lot, Julie. And really, a really interesting presentation and great products you have there. To conclude our immersion into the situation room and its risk information hubs, let's now hear from Delali Sandra Kemeh on the use of the African Media Monitor to sustain the accuracy of the information contained and offered by the situation room. Thank you, Delali. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Kiara. Please, can you show the presentation, please? Welcome to this presentation. As Kiara said, I will be presenting on the African Media Monitor. It's a little bit tiny on the screen, so if we could just increase it slightly. As Lusajo and Andre and Julie has already said, the Situation Room produces two products, the Continental Watch and Situation Event Report. We know that information from the media is very important to make the products produced very informative. And where can we get this secondary information? It's from reliable sources that we can trust. So the information that is collected from the media is mainly used to complement the information got from the MyDWETHRA platform. We normally use correspond with disaster risk reduction focal persons in the country to be able to verify the data to make sure that the extra information that is being put in the bulletin is factual and is actually useful and trusted. Now, I put this infographic there because the way we collect information is through a network approach. So, for example, as you see, we work with the Situation Room in IGAD and then the Situation Room in ACMAC as well. That's a networked approach that we are using. And as I already said, the information has to be verified or at least can be verified from a reliable source. And we also get information from the media. We use the African Media Platform for the African Media Monitor, which I will talk about shortly. Now, this is the interface of the African Media Monitor. It's a web-based platform that is comprised of three interfaces, the Africa Brief, News Desk, and the Live Monitor. These interfaces present and disseminate information. So the AUC duty officers use the news desk of the African Media Monitor to find important information that must be brought to the attention of decision makers. Currently, the African Media Monitor searches more than 2,500 sources in Arabic, English, French, Portuguese, and Swahili. So you see from the screenshot of the interface, which is being displayed, that on the left are the hazards that we currently look at. This is just an initial phase. So it's just heavy rainfall, floods, and then strong winds. But as time goes on, these hazards would be increased. And we normally also put in a filter, which is in the middle of the screenshot on your screen right now. That sort of brings together news media information from the media that reports on disaster events. And I've also circled at the bottom of the screenshot the number of articles that this filter that we put there searches. So we use the web-based platform that we use to produce the Continental Watch is the bulletin part of the MyDWEFRA platform. Now, the media part of the Continental Watch is inserted in the observed event in the last 5 days. You will see from your screenshot that once we put the media sources on your right, we just take a line or two of the information that we want to take the attention of decision makers in that particular section, and then we put the sources where we find this information there as well, so that if people who are accessing the product want more information, they can be able to simply click and then go to that media source. But it's important to know that any news or media article that is presented in the African Media Monitor is solely based on the media source and do not represent those of the African Union. But the system is only as good as we make it. So we actually have a form that we use to collect the data, because what we give in is what we get out. So we have a thematic area, the keywords associated with the thematic area, and then the trusted media sources as well to talk about the disaster event. So if you are watching this right now and you have reliable media sources or sources that you could recommend that the Situation Room have a look at, kindly share it in the chat box section so that we can be able to have a look at it later. So usually this Continental Watch is produced on Tuesdays and Fridays. And as today is Tuesday, we actually have not closed the Continental Watch because we would like you to have a feel of how the whole choreography around it. But before I go to the QR code, you can see on your left a screenshot of the interface. Normally, the most recent one that we have is the first line that shows. The last one was on last week, Friday, which was on the 12th, but it shows closed right now. So if you were in the live session, that closed would rather be open. And when there's a yellow highlight there just under the publish section. Once you scan the QR code on your right, which will be displayed in a much larger form shortly, you would be put in a Telegram group that once I click publish, you should be able to see it as well. And as you can see at the top there, I circled the AEC duty officer interface just to show you that it's not everyone that has access to this, so that we can know who is able to make information at what time, just to be able to track that the information that we give is reliable and can be trusted. Please can the QR code be shown on a much larger interface so that participants can be able to access this QR code to join the Telegram group. Okay, whilst we wait for it to be shown on a much bigger interface, I will just go ahead to conclude my presentation. Yes, so you can see on your screen right now, that is the QR code. You can be able to scan it as soon as possible. In fact, if you can do it right now, that would be excellent, because I'll be closing the Continental Watch soon, and then you can be able to receive it. Thank you very much for displaying it. Please, can I go back to my presentation? I just have about 2 slides left.
Okay, Delali, I think the presentation was great, and can't wait to hear the feedbacks regarding the Continental Watch. So that was our last intervention for this side event. But now another interesting part begins, the questions and answer sessions. We have collected your questions, and now I'm going to ask them on your behalf to the speakers. So let's start immediately with Julie from ICPAC. So, Julie, the question for you is, at which spatial scale are the events being recorded by the Situation Room?
Thank you very much, Chiara, and thank you for the question. We will go to the lowest level possible. Currently, we are having machine learning experts to just gather past data sets with their location in all named or reported disasters. So at the moment, we are having at the lowest sub-admin level, but if we can get information at a location-based, it will be more precise. But we are looking at those two options. The location of lat long, exact location where it happened, or within the lowest admin. You can call it a sub-district or a location. So those are the lowest level resolution we are collecting past data from. I think I got the question right, Chiara.
Absolutely. I think so too. To Lusajo from AUC. Lusajo, the question is, can the AUC Situation Room at the moment serve as a model to be replicated by the member states? Lusajo, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, moderator. The answer is a big yes. Yeah, because if you look at this situation room that has been established, it is a well-equipped situation room with all the necessary equipment, as well as human capacity. So it is something actually that can work as a model for member countries to replicate what the Commission is doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Lusajo. A very precious answer. And Julie, I see you have raised your hand. Maybe you want to contribute. Please, come in.
Yes. Just on the same point that Lusajo just mentioned, we have a member state from Somalia who saw what we have already at TICPAC, and they requested if this can be replicated in Somalia. And there's already funds involved. So we are just doing a concept note on the budget that requires us to do the same for Somalia and also train their staff on what to do. So this is possible, and you already have one request for member states to do so. Just to confirm what Lusajo said. Thanks, yeah.
Thank you, Julie. That's really important. And Julie, don't go away, because we have another question for you. Will the data be available to the public as it for flood list, MDAT? And if yes, how?
Yes, this data will be available to the public because the main bosses of us being here are the member states. So we can't hold this away from them. We'll avail this through an interactive dashboard where member states can also contribute to the actual data set that will be seen. So we'll have observed data set historically viewed in the same dashboard, and you can change the periods on what you want to view, and also anticipation for the next coming days. So this will be available through an interactive web platform. So this is a work in progress. We have already staff who are working on it, and once it's available, we'll launch it soon as well. Thanks, Chiara.
How does ACMAD and its national Met offices are communicating about uncertainties in seasonal climate forecast? For instance, the PRESASS has forecasted an average to above average rainy season in all regions of Niger, while communities in Talaberi region end up by experiencing a very bad turnout of the season in terms of seasonal cumulative rainfall and a below average length of the rainy season. As I said, Dr. Kamga, you can read the question in the chat box so that...
Actually, I understand clearly the question. As you can see, we have a forecast which is regional, and a question related to the assessment, the quality of the forecast in a local area. So the approach that we have now is to consider downscaling of seasonal forecast to local areas. And it is effectively something that we'll have to do inside the monitoring and forecasting component of the multi-hazard early warning system, because as soon as we go at the national level, we'll have to be much more specific in the location where a given hazard may occur. So the person is right, and also to handle this, it will require good collaboration, particularly with the meteorological services or of the countries where the hazards are identified. And from our experience, we'll have to undertake some pilot activities with some countries selected in the program, so that we focus on demonstrating how a multi-hazard early warning system can deliver at the country level. So thank you for that question, and it just highlighted our strategy to really have a pilot country exercise with the multi-hazard early warning system we are building at the continental level. Thank you.
Great. Thank you a lot. And actually, I have one last question for you, Dr. Kamga, that I also dropped in the chat box so you can read it. The question is, given the weak density of climate monitoring sites in sub-Saharan countries, are you using ground-recorded data or proxy data to monitor the three key hazards: heavy rainfall, floods, and strong wind?
Yeah, okay. The question usually comes, but what I would say is that depending on the size of the hazards, you may not need surgical precision. That is, if you are looking at a system like the one I've shown you, which developed from Lake Chad, propagate long way and go out in the Atlantic in Senegal, in quite a number of situations, some rainfall observation at the station observations combined with satellite and other products help to monitor it quite interestingly. But I should mention that as soon as we'll go local in the countries, we'll need to work with the National Met Service to make sure that the network, the observing network of the country operates perfectly. And yes, that's what I can say. As soon as you are working at the regional or continental level, combinations of existing station data sets and satellite can help to monitor events that are several hundred of kilometers of scale quite perfectly. But we'll have to tackle the issue of increasing monitoring sites when we'll be giving information for use at the local level in the countries.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kamga. So now that we are 5 minutes to the end of this session, to conclude, I'm going to ask to AUC Situation Room Duty Officer Delali to share her insight on the challenges she has faced as individual and also as a team while working remotely at the back then non-physically present Disaster Operation Center Situation Room in AUC. So, Delali, tell us, what have you encountered as a main challenge while you were working with your colleagues, with the other duty officers, while setting up the Situation Room?
Thank you very much, Kiara, for this question. Actually, I've been looking forward to this question. One challenge that we've seriously been facing is the responsiveness of DRR focal points to validate the information that we are able to collect either from the media or from the MyDirect platform. The thing is, information is very key, and also corroborating information to make sure that what we see in our system is really what is on the ground is very important. So we would appreciate it if there are any disaster risk focal point person in the audience to be more responsive. There are some who are responsive, but sometimes the timeliness of the response is very crucial, because then you are able to communicate the necessary information to the decision makers. The second thing also is the media sources. The thing is, when a disaster happens right now, assuming you are in, let's say, at the airport of Kenya, and then let's say there's an earthquake, the first respondents, there are people who would have social media platforms or anybody who has access to any communication platform. And so those informations would feed onto the media. So in as much as sometimes the media presents information that are true, sometimes they are the first crucial points to give insight into the situation. And so you as an individual most likely would know that if I listen to news from source A, it's more reliable than source B. If you have such kind of media platform, please share it with the AUC Situation Room. I've asked that our email address is shared in the participant chat box. Please send us those media sources so that we can be able to increase our media sources to make sure that the information we produce in the Continental Watch is robust. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Delali. So, distinguished participants and attendees, don't be shy. Please help us ameliorating the Situation Room and its products. So, I can't thank you enough for your time and the great presentations offered to this side event. On AUC, IGAD, UNDRR, and CIMA Twitter accounts, you can follow the development of the African Roadmap implementation. And I wish you a great continuation with the African Forum for DRR. And I thank you again for your attention, for your participation, and your feedback. Thank you very much, and goodbye.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are so glad that you could join us for the sessions today. We look forward to having you join us again tomorrow for the official opening ceremony of the Africa Regional Platform for Disaster Risk Reduction. This will be happening at 11:00 hours Nairobi time. That is 11 a.m. +3 GMT. And of course, we will have the subsequent deliberations after that. Once again, thank you so much for joining today. See you tomorrow, and good evening.